Hello, my name is 환산스님, and this is Sun Meditation in English. Okay, whatever we're doing, whatever's on our mind, let's put all of that stuff down and let's focus on guided meditation together right now. And let's stay focused completely and exclusively on our guided meditation for the next 45 minutes or so. Can we do that for ourselves? Why don't we begin? So first, please assume the seated meditation posture. Place your hands like this. Tuck in your chin. Keep your eyes open. Have the tip of your tongue against the roof of your mouth. And now we will enter preparation breathing. So breathe in through your nose and fill your chest. Together. Hold. And then breathe out through the mouth. Breathe in through your nose. Hold. Breathe out through your mouth. And now we enter abdominal breathing. So all of the breathing is done through the nose. We inhale, hold, and then exhale through the nose. As you will recall in abdominal breathing, when we breathe in, very slowly and very gently, push your lower belly out, hold for 2 or 3 seconds, and then as you exhale, draw in your belly button toward your spine. So it will feel as if the air is going down into your lower belly where the dantian, our energy center, is. So why don't we engage abdominal breathing together? So breathe in, hold, and breathe out. Continue to do the abdominal breathing on your own. And as you go deeper and deeper into the breathing, let your breathing slow down naturally. Let your body relax and settle down and find its center. Let your mind calm down. And as your mind calms down and clears up, you naturally bring your attention to the present moment. And as that happens, keep your attention focused on your dantian, on a spot about 2 inches below your navel in the center of your body. That's where you want your attention to be at all times as we now enter the third phase of meditation, the third element of meditation, which is thought. We will now hold our hwadu, imogo. What is this? What is this that directs my body? What is this that generates my thoughts? What is this that responds to the call of my name? As you'll recall, we coordinate that with our breathing. So we breathe in, hold, and on the out breath, imogo. That's Y-I-M-W-O-T-G-O. That means, what is this? So let's once again breathe in, hold, and then breathe out. Imogo. And for the remainder of this program, please continue to hold this posture, continue to engage abdominal breathing, and continue to hold the imogo hwadu as we go through the course of the program. Now for tonight's program, we're going to contemplate and meditate upon our ability to create positive change in the world. Now this is something that I often hear about from my international and Korean friends. And what they say goes something like this. When I look out at the world, I see that there are 7 billion human beings living on this planet. I am one of 7 billion. And when I think of that, I can't help but feel that my life, my concerns are small and inconsequential. And I wonder, how much meaning do I have in this world? Does it really make a difference whether I'm there or not, since there are 7 billion other people in the world? And then I hear these things in the news, I read these things in the media about the problems that are affecting us now. And these problems, these challenges, these issues are happening on a tremendous scale, on a global scale. I'm hearing about changes in the climate, global warming, pollution of our oceans, our atmosphere, and our land, the destruction of entire species of animal and plant life. And even in the human world, I'm hearing about issues in our world economy. And even with regard to technology, there seem to be revolutionary changes happening on almost a daily basis. And all of these things affect my life and affect the lives of everyone I know, but I don't feel I have any control over what's happening to me. I don't feel that I have any power to produce meaningful change in the world. Now, power is defined as our ability to influence others, whether those others be other human beings or the physical world around us. And normally, I think many of us think of power as something that belongs to a select, gifted, fortunate few. That if you have a special political position or social position or occupation, or if you have some kind of economic power, some kind of economic wealth, then you're considered to have power. And if you think of power, the ability to influence the world in that way, then it's natural to think that, well, only a very few have real power to create real influence in the world, and the rest of us are kind of excluded from power. That ordinary people like you and me don't really have that much ability to affect the world. And when we think like that, when we go down this line of thinking, it becomes very tempting to take an attitude of, well, I'm sure someone will take care of all that. There's a lot of smart people out there, so I'm sure someone will take care of all that, and I just need to have to take care of my individual self, my individual life. And yet at the same time, it's not comfortable to think that way. We don't want to feel that way about ourselves. We don't want to just stick our heads in the sand. So is there an alternative to this? As an ordinary person, is there a way that I can produce meaningful and positive change and influence in the world? Can Buddhism help to answer this question? Now, I believe that Sun Buddhist teachings and practices can help us in this regard. But in order to understand how Buddhism can help us, we need first to understand what the Buddhist view of a human being is. Now, normally when we try to define what a human being is or describe what a human being is, it's often done in terms of the human body. Physiologically, physically, the things that we can do, like think with reason and logic, or physically move and affect our physical environment, or our use of language to create social coordination. So it's tempting, we're trained to think of ourselves as human beings in that way in our modern educational system and in the kinds of training that we receive in our professional careers. But the Buddhist perspective comes from a bit of a different angle. In the context of Sun Buddhism, a human being is defined in terms of the mind, in terms of consciousness. Human consciousness is the defining quality of what it means to be human. And so the Sun Buddhist masters try to describe the mind in the simplest and most easy to understand way. And one way that they do this is to use the metaphor of a light source, a lamp. That a human being, a human mind, is like a lamp. And the lamp can be described in terms of its essence and its function. The essence means, what is it really? And the function means, what does it do as a result of what it is? So when we ask that of a lamp, what is a lamp? What is the defining quality, the essence of a lamp? We say that it's brightness. That's the way it's taught. So then what is the defining quality of human consciousness, of the human mind? And Sun Buddhists say it's enlightenment. It's enlightened awareness. And then, now enlightenment is usually described as wisdom within the Buddhist tradition, but wisdom here does not mean what we normally think of it as being. It does not mean accumulated knowledge and experience. That is considered content of the mind. The mind itself, in its nature, is enlightenment, which is the ability to perceive clearly and without distortion what itself is and what the world is. And it can do this in an immediate way without the use of language or ideas or concepts. That's the Buddhist understanding of what it means to be human, that we can know and we can be aware of directly. So if that's the essence of a human mind, then what's the function? So we can ask that of the lamp. What's the function of the lamp? And the function of the lamp is to illumine, to shine on things. And likewise, the function of the human mind, of the enlightened mind, is to be able to see things clearly, to perceive clearly. Now, when you look at it, essence and function in reality are one and the same. You know, the brightness of a lamp is the illumination of the lamp. You know, you can't have one without the other. Similarly, enlightenment is clear awareness, clear insight into things. So this is the way that Buddhists define human beings. And when you hear this definition, the first obvious thing to ask is, well, you know, why am I unenlightened? Why can't I see my own true nature and the nature of the world around me? Why is my perception distorted and fragmented and inaccurate at times? And the Buddhists answer that with another kind of metaphorical explanation. And this time, we can think of the enlightened mind, the human mind, as the full moon in the night sky. Now, when the full moon is in a clear night sky, it shines on everything and you can see anything even though it's night. But when the full moon is covered by clouds, then the light is no longer available and everything becomes very dark. And if the cloud cover is especially dense, then it can be so dark that you don't even know that there's a moon in the sky. Likewise, the human mind, the enlightened mind, shines forth, but in our unenlightened state, it's completely covered by the cloud of karma. Now, karma is the sum total accumulation of all of our negative habits of thinking, feeling, speaking, acting, behaving, living. All of these things have accumulated to block off our inner light of this enlightenment. What meditation does, you know, following this metaphorical description, is it clears away the cloud. It burns away the cloud so that the inner light can come shining forth. Now, this is a simple image, but it has profound implications for us who want to practice meditation. Because when you look at this image, if you understand what it's saying, this metaphor, then we can understand that enlightenment is not something that we achieve. We don't become enlightened. We don't become the Buddha. We already are the Buddha. The full moon is already there. The enlightened mind is already there. What we do in meditation is uncover it. We are Buddha right now. We are enlightenment right now. We just need to uncover it through the effort and action of meditation. So this is something that we need to understand. So the claim is always made within Sun Buddhism, we do not become Buddha, we are Buddha. Now, this metaphor actually, though, is based in experiential reality, because if the description can sound very kind of theoretical and abstract, but if you actually live in a meditation community under an authentic meditation master or enlightened master, you will quickly see why the metaphor of a light source is used. Because in my personal experience under Sun Master Songdam, when you go near an accomplished spiritual master, you do feel a kind of radiance coming from them. It does feel like there's something shining out, and a light that's invisible to our eyes. Now, the peculiar quality of this light, of the light of the enlightened mind, is this. When an enlightened mind looks out at the world of living beings, undistorted by negative mind states or negative emotions, then what we see, what the enlightened mind sees, is suffering. The suffering of other living beings, our own suffering. And the immediate response to that is compassion and love. Now, compassion and love in Buddhism are defined very clearly. Compassion means the desire for the suffering of all living beings to end. And love means the desire for all living beings to attain enlightenment and eternal happiness. And what's important here is that love and compassion then are not emotion. Emotion is a state of the mind or content of the mind. It's not action or behavior either. It is the natural manifestation and expression of what we are. It's what we are, it's not what we do. If you understand that, and you go near a meditation master, you will feel this light, there's no other way to express it, a kind of radiance coming from them. And it is a transformative kind of experience. It is a transformative radiance, because what it feels like, and really this is the only way I can put it, it feels like the sun is shining on you, and the sun is shining for you. It feels like you are seen for who you are, that all that's good about you is acknowledged and respected and loved, and the things, our shortcomings, our limitations, are also understood with sympathy and respect and understanding. And when you feel something like that coming from another person, it changes you. And this is what we can learn. The first thing that we can learn from Buddhism, if we understand that a human being is this way, is that we can produce change in another person simply through our presence, simply because of the effects of meditation. You don't have to be an enlightened master to be able to do this. At my home temple of Yonghwa-sa in Incheon, I lead the layperson's meditation center. And they're ordinary people with ordinary families and jobs come every day to meditate, but they meditate very seriously. That's what's extraordinary about them. They come to meditate, and some of them meditate for several hours a day. And they also give off this light, the same light that my teacher gives off. When I look in their faces, when I look in their eyes, I see that light come shining back. And it affects me. It moves me as strongly as my teacher ever did. This is something that we can all learn to do. It's not the province of specially gifted people. And while we're on this topic, I'll add one more comment with regard to this so-called light that our minds give off. And I believe that this light, this inner light, our enlightened nature, is the essence of true human beauty. People these days more than ever worry about how they're perceived by others, whether they're liked, whether they're appealing or attractive or whatever. And these days more than ever, human beauty is defined in physical terms, what our faces and our bodies look like. And that can only produce anxiety in all of us, because no matter how physically attractive one may be, our bodies are impermanent, we will age, we will lose it. So when we define beauty in physical terms, we are defining something that we are not allowed to keep, even though we want to. But if you live in a meditation community, you begin to see when this light comes out from people, it makes them beautiful. It is their beauty, and it doesn't matter what they look like or how old they are or what their gender is or what their personal background is. None of that matters. When the light comes out, it beautifies them, it makes them glow, literally. So if we understand that, then we have another route to achieving, to finding our own natural beauty. And this truly belongs to us. It won't age over time. This comes directly from what we are, which is this enlightened mind, the Buddha within us. This radiance, this light that comes out, is also described in terms of fragrance. That's another metaphor. Like a burning piece of incense, a fragrance kind of spreads out in the space around you. And when people smell that, they feel calm, and they find it appealing, and they feel drawn to you. And this is another interesting thing. This metaphor brings out another interesting aspect or side effect of meditation, is that just through your presence, you can draw people to you. That's the claim that Sun Master Songdam says, he makes in his Dharma speeches, that if you practice meditation very, very seriously, then you will erase or get rid of, strip away your karma. Your inner light will begin to shine forth, and people will naturally feel drawn to you. They'll like you. They'll respect you. Now, it takes a lot of practice, I believe, to achieve something like that. But nonetheless, this is something that we have access to when we learn how to meditate. So these are ways in which simple spiritual presence, simple cultivated meditative presence can affect influence in the world. Now, how do we go from there, though, to creating real positive change? That's a question that I will take up in the second half of this program. But for now, why don't we take a break, and when we get back, we'll continue on. And we're back again. So once again, the question is, assuming that the Buddhists are right, and that our fundamental human nature is enlightenment, and this enlightenment manifests as universal love or compassion when we use meditation to strip away the karma that obscures our basic nature. How can this be translated into action that we can take to create positive change in our world? Now, in order for me to answer that question, I would like to start by telling you a story, and I'll put everything into context as I go. But I have a friend whom I've known since college, so that's almost 30 years. And we've known each other during that time, and at the time he was a medical student. And as a young man, he made a very serious commitment to try to eliminate actually poverty from the world. And he went on to have a truly amazing career, and he's actually become world famous. His name is Dr. Jim Yong Kim, and he is the president of the World Bank. The World Bank is an international financial institution that provides loans for developing countries to develop their infrastructure and to ultimately to be able to participate in international trade and investment. And the official goal of the World Bank is to reduce and ultimately eliminate poverty in the world. Now, over the years, Dr. Kim and I have maintained a communication, and then recently when he took on this incredibly important position, I didn't hear from him for a long time, and then very recently he swung through Korea, and he very graciously set aside some time to meet and talk with me. And in the course of that conversation, I learned a lot. He kind of gave a quick summary overview of the kinds of challenges and issues that our human civilization faces right now at this time in history. And when I heard everything that was going on, and which I alluded to at the beginning of this program, these global issues that affect us individually, but I also learned that more than ever before, we human beings, through our increased communication technology, are interconnected with one another much more than ever before in history. And also that an individual person has much more potential ability to create change in the world than ever before in history. So this can go in positive directions and negative directions. And as I listened to him speak, I began to understand that in modern Buddhist texts, it's very common to talk of meditation and spiritual practice in terms of being present, being in the moment, focusing your mind into a single point on whatever it is at hand, that we need to be authentically. But as I listened to Dr. Kim and understood the array of challenges facing us, I began to understand that it's not enough to just be authentically. One must do as well. It's not enough to be good. We have to do good. That was an insight that I was very happy to gain from him. And another thing that we should know about Dr. Kim is that he is one of the most relentless people I've ever met in terms of his desire to improve upon himself, improve upon his skills, and improve himself as a human being. It's something that I admire and respect about him very much. He's naturally been very interested in enhancing his already formidable leadership skills. And one of the things he does is he meets with other leaders, and they exchange ideas and give and receive advice from one another. And he does this apparently on a very regular basis. And one of the leaders that he personally respects quite a bit is Mulally, who is the CEO of Ford Motor Company. Now, for those of you who don't know who Alan Mulally is, he was hired as CEO of Ford Motor Company in 2006, a time when Ford Motor Company was losing billions of dollars every year. And at the time he was hired, they were about to record an annual loss of $12.7 billion, which was their biggest loss in the history of their over 100-year-old company. So he is credited with turning everything around. Since 2009, the company has continued to record annual profits, and their entire organizational structure and corporate culture has been changed, and all of this credit is given to him. So he's become kind of a legendary figure in the corporate world, and someone whom Dr. Kim respects very much. So I was told that they met with Alan Mulally to gain some insight into leadership from him. And at the end of this gathering, Alan Mulally looked at them, and all of these people are, very important leaders in their own right. And he said to them, as their concluding remark, he was going to make his concluding remark, and everyone was very kind of eager to hear what he had to say in conclusion. And he said to them, "You all have very nice smiles. You should smile more often." And they were taken a little bit aback. They were like, "Well, we've invested a lot of time and energy to get here, and we're very busy people." And then what Dr. Kim said to me was, he said, "Then I thought about it, and I realized that this is a very subtle and profound thing to say." I think he was saying to us that as a leader, our own faces, our facial expressions no longer belong to us. We don't own them anymore. They are to be used now to lead and to serve others. They are meant to be devoted to the pursuit of a greater common good. And the idea of the smile, it's so simple. It's so simple that it's hard to take seriously, even for, very, very intelligent people. But basically, a smile lets the other person know that you're okay. So if a leader is smiling, you feel a little bit more comfortable because you feel like they're confident about what they're doing. And it also tells the other person that you think well of them, that you like them. So actually a smile achieves quite a bit. Now, this insight is shared by leaders all over the world. The Dalai Lama himself also says, every time I meet someone, I try to smile at them, as much as possible. And if they don't smile back at me, I get a little worried because I think they must be suffering. Because the most natural response to a smile is to smile back. In our community, Sun Master Songdam also teaches us to smile. He says, if you truly want to make an offering to the Buddha, smile at everyone you meet. When you smile at everyone you meet, you are giving offerings to the Buddha. So now I want to make one cautionary remark, is that a fake rigid smile tends to be disturbing. A fake smile tends to create doubt and mistrust. The only way for this to work is for the smile to be authentic and heartfelt and full of love. And that's not necessarily an easy thing to pull off. Now, the reason why I've brought this story into this program today is because we have a means of doing that, of bringing our sincerity, our love, our wisdom, and compassion into our smiles. We meditate. By meditating, we learn to release our inner light. And when we smile, we can take our inner light and direct it with intention toward a person or a group of people. What we are, which is this inner light of enlightenment and compassion and love, can now be directed at someone or some people through what we do, which is smile. So as simple as it is, smiling is the first thing that we can do to create positive change in our world. And the only reason why I brought up the names of all these famous people is so that people would take it seriously, because I wasn't sure. But you figure if the president of the World Bank is taking it seriously, if the CEO of Ford Motor Company is taking it seriously, well, maybe we should too. And I think it's something that any of us can do, even if we're not in positions of social leadership. So this is the first thing that I would like to share with you as something that we can do to create positive change in our own world. Now, the second thing that I would like to recommend actually comes from my own personal experience. And that is one thing that we can do for another person or people is we can communicate to them what is wonderful about them, what is amazing about them. Now, normally we say when we do this that we're giving them a compliment. But a compliment is often associated with flattery, or it's associated with trying to make someone feel better. But what I'm trying to convey today, I think, is a little bit more profound than that. Very recently, a student of mine told me that before he met me, he had been feeling kind of dejected and underconfident, and he had a lot of regrets, and felt like even at a young age he was failing, and he felt like kind of a loser. And then he told me that I said to him, that I said nice, I pointed out to him these wonderful qualities that he has, and that I said that I really believe that you can do something. I believe in you. And he said that really energized him. And I was very surprised by that. And he also said that you see the best in people. And that was astonishing to me, because I was really not that kind of a person before I learned meditation. When I was very young, a student, before I met Songdam Sim, I looked at the world in very dark, negative terms. I thought the world was a place of suffering and violence. I thought that human beings were brutal, violent, and cruel. I thought that the history of humanity was a history of bloodshed. When I was about 22 years old, I had a conversation with Sun Master Songdam, and he asked me, he said, well, yes, there's suffering in the world and people do terrible things, but maybe we could learn to cooperate. Maybe we could, come together, learn to overcome our differences, and work toward the greater common good of peace and mutual prosperity. And maybe together, if we do that, we can create paradise on earth. And then he looked at me very pointedly and he said, do you believe that's possible? And I said without hesitation, no, people are not like that. And he started laughing. And at the time, I thought that he was giving me kind of a trick question. I thought that he was trying to see if I'm overly idealistic or not. And when he laughed, I thought he was laughing ironically. I thought he was laughing with me. And it wasn't until years later that I realized that he was laughing at me, that this 22-year-old kid who presumes to judge all of humanity and all of human history. But when this student spoke to me, I realized how much I had changed, that meditation had changed me, that meditation can do this for us. It can help us to see the best in people, because the very nature of our minds is to see clearly. And when we look at someone and see clearly, we will see the beauty that they have. Now, the thing that's amazing about telling somebody what you see in them is that it's more than just a compliment. It can inspire them. It can energize them. It can electrify them. It can make them move mountains if you do it right. Now, Sun Master Songdam cautions us in his Dharma speeches that if you ever want to say something about someone to them, pick the right time and place, meaning you have to make sure they're ready to hear it. Now, if you feel underconfident about your ability to make such a communication of love and insight, you don't have to be, because meditation will bring it out in you naturally. But this is one thing that we can do. If we make the effort, if we practice a little bit, we can look at somebody and tell them what we see in them, the amazing, wonderful, beautiful, original, unique things we see in them. And that makes them aware of it. And this is something that I believe that all human beings have to do for one another. Because through enlightenment, through introspection, we may be able to see into our own nature, but we cannot see how others perceive us. We cannot see what we are to others unless they tell us. So I believe we have a responsibility to tell each other what we see in each other, because it's the only way that we'll ever know this other side of ourselves, this side of ourselves that faces the world. So this is another thing that, based on my personal experience, that I would like to share with you, that we can give each other these insights and this energy. Now, the final recommendation that I would like to make in terms of concrete things we can do to create positive change in our world is actually also something I learned from a famous person, but I'm not going to mention her name because I think I've name dropped enough today. But it's well-known advice, and the idea is, the recommendation is that anytime you meet someone, anytime you go to any kind of gathering, ask yourself the question, what can I do to help? How can I help the people here? How can I improve the situation? Now, this may sound idealistic, but it is actually based on very sound, tested management principles. And those principles go like this. Anytime a person, a single individual, joins a group, a gathering, or an organization, that group, gathering, or organization will change. It will change for the better, or it will change for the worse, but it will not stay the same. No one is so invisible that when they go join a group, the group doesn't change at all. So whenever we go anywhere, we're changing that situation. And we can take control. We can learn to take control of our influence on those around us by asking us, by disciplining ourselves to ask ourselves this question, what can I do to help? Because one way or the other, when I go somewhere, I'm bringing change with me. So if I say to myself, what can I do to help? And use my meditation to look clearly and objectively at the situation, I'll come up with something. Or maybe, realistically, maybe the situation is one where there's nothing I can do. It's just the circumstances are there. Then what we can do is follow the famous physician's oath, which is do no harm. Then don't hurt anyone. Don't do anything that might hurt someone. Sun Master Songdam teaches us, never, even when you're forced to defend yourself, never hurt another person, especially out of anger or revenge. Now, I used to think of this as a kind of spiritual idealism, that even though this person's trying to hurt me, I won't hurt them back because I'm so compassionate. But actually, over time, I've begun to realize it's much more profound than that. When I hurt another person, I set in motion a chain reaction of social events. I am going to create a very negative mind state in that person. And that person will probably go on to do something negative to somebody else. And so I am becoming responsible for possibly hurting people that I don't even know. I don't even know that this is going on. But this idea of what can I do to help or do no harm is based on the assumption that we are all connected. That is the Buddhist view of the world, that we are all connected. All things, all living beings are connected in an infinitely vast, infinitely complex network of relationships. And any time one thing moves, the whole thing moves with it. We have an amazing ability to influence the world, even though we may not always see the consequences of our behavior. When we understand that, we can be empowered to know that our lives count, that how we live counts, that what we choose to think, feel, say, and do matters in this world, and we can learn to train ourselves to take control of those things and we can go further than that, we can use our meditation to empower and energize everything that we do. It's beginning with a smile, beginning with a compliment, and then asking ourselves the tough question of what can I do to help? With Sun Master Songdam, he tells us that the person who meditates for his or her own enlightenment only is someone who doesn't understand meditation. The purpose of meditation is not just for us to get enlightenment individually. We get enlightened so that we can help all living beings to become enlightened. The whole point is to create positive change in the world. And we can begin that by uniting our meditation with the way we live. Now, as a final concluding remark, I would like to say that in my meeting with Dr. Kim, I came to understand, well, he told me that meditation is spreading out into the world, that everyone's becoming very, very interested in it. And I began to realize that there is a historic meeting that's happening now, a dialogue that's beginning between this ancient spiritual tradition of meditation and these ultra-modern domains of progress in leadership, organization, communication, technology, that somehow they're coming together. And in their union, something new can come out, something very powerful, something very beneficial. Spiritual insights can help to temper and guide our scientific and material progress. And what modern science and what modern technology teaches us or trains us to know can help to make our meditation more effective, more powerful, more resonant. Something can happen when these two disciplines meet. And so I would like to encourage all of you, all of our studio audience members and all of you listening at home, to bring your meditation into your 21st century lives. Don't think of it as two separate things. Learn to meditate at home, do seated meditation, learn all of these things, and then bring it into your life, into the life that we live in the outside world with all of this change happening around us. And in that encounter between your inner life and your outer life, I believe something will be born. Something new will come into this world. This is an exciting experiment that we can all try together. So I think that's all the time that we have today. So thank you once again for listening. Thank you all of you for participating. And once again, I will close with the traditional Buddhist greeting. May we all attain the Buddha. And now we will enter into our closing session of meditation. So please assume your meditation posture. And with 3 strikes of the chukpi, we will once again enter meditation.
Thank you.